With no official news on CJ Gardner Johnson, rumors have begun circulating about a couple different backup options at safety. Is this former Eagle someone to consider? And the depth chart looks a lot better than it did a week ago. But what moves can we expect from Howie in the draft? But first, let's run it. Josh Davis here, and I hope you're having a great start to your weekend. Please make sure to like and subscribe. Everyone else is seeming to get signed. The question we continue to ask ourselves at this point is, what's going to happen with CJ Gardner Johnson? It seems like every single show, that's what I open with, and that's the question, and that's what's on everyone's mind. And all these other free agents seem to be getting signed and moved to other teams and deals being done, but we're just not hearing anything. But then the question you have to ask yourself is, well, what's Howie going to do? Because obviously, he's still got to make plans for who's going to play safety and who's going to be in the defensive backfield. So what is he going to do? Who is he going to sign? Rest assured, Howie's always thinking 10 steps ahead. So then you begin to ask yourself maybe a further question. Well, what are the contingency plans? And if you didn't catch it yesterday, rumors started circulating about a former Eagle. And what Eagle was that? Well, take a look. So should the Eagles bring back Jalen Mills? And that's a question posed on Bleeding Green Nation by Alexis Chasen. But it says here, quote, the Philadelphia Eagles have already locked up the cornerback position early in free agency, but they still need to make moves at safety. Marcus Epps is now in Las Vegas, and CJ Gardner Johnson seems less likely to return as the days go on. One interesting option would be bringing back the Green Goblin himself, Jalen Mills, after it was reported that the Patriots were planning to release the DB. So you see Adam Schefter's tweet here saying Patriots are releasing defensive back Jalen Mills. Per source, the release saves about $5 million against the Patriots cap. Mills is exactly the kind of versatile player that Nick Sirianni likes to have on the roster. His first 4 years in Philly, he played cornerback before moving over to safety in 2020. The move was made after Malcolm Jenkins left for New Orleans, and he did a respectable job filling those rather large shoes. In fact, Mills had a career-high season in 2020, finishing with 74 total tackles, 5 QB hits, 3 passes defended, 1 interception, 1 forced fumble, plus 1.5 sacks, which are the only sacks of his career, end quote. The article goes on to mention, obviously, he went to New England. He didn't play as effectively. We kind of know that. The thought was he might play safety. They moved him back to corner, and just an okay situation there, and obviously now they're releasing. So then the question becomes, should we bring back Jalen Mills? While I'll disagree with the article because it says it's less likely that CJ Gardner Johnson returns as this drags on, I think it's more likely because I think it's telling that he's not getting offers from any other team. So at this point, it's why don't I just return to Philly, even if it is betting on myself, like I mentioned in yesterday's show. But then the question is Jalen Mills worth a look? Is that someone that we should consider? I don't think so, and here's why. I love Jalen Mills, absolutely love him, and I remember him as much as I'm sure all of us do in the 2017 run and how phenomenal he played, a chip on his shoulder. He's always played with passion, embodied the Philly mentality. I love all of that. The Green Goblin is awesome, but even back then, he was a little bit slow. He's always had to make up for that lack of speed with physicality, with passion, with being able to play routes or jump routes, but sometimes that's cost him. And I think if there's one lesson, or maybe the biggest lesson we've learned from that 2017 season, and Howie's admitted it as well, is do not fall susceptible to the game of hiring or signing veterans and getting too old and too slow. And although, yes, you can make the argument we've signed, or ask the question, haven't we signed a lot of those similar types of players? Yes, we have. But I think this is a situation of, hey, there's some key pieces like Brandon Graham, like Fletcher Cox, like Jason Kelce that are worth signing and bringing back. But let's not bring back, or let's not sign other outside free agents that are putting us all in that same position. While I love Jalen Mills, I don't think that he's someone that we should consider and bring back. It would be curious though, yes, and you could say there's always a good argument to have plenty of defensive backs and guys that are versatile, because Jalen can play, like the article mentions, the slot and the safety, and he's done it many times. If you bring back CJ Gardner Johnson, maybe you could look at bringing in Jalen Mills just as a backup and just kind of loading the roster, because yes, again, he's someone who has a lot of veteran leadership and can be a leader on the team. If he's forced into a role, he could play on a couple plays or here and there, figuring into the rotation. But again, he's not someone that I think that he would really benefit to bring in. So curious to know what you guys think, though. Let me know in the comments below. Is Jalen Mills someone who's worth considering or should return to the team? Let me know what you guys think. You You may have noticed too, though, on Twitter that Jalen is all for it. And obviously here from the tweet, so he says, y'all know I'm really a hybrid, right? And then he also says, y'all know I really play safety, right? This is nothing new. Again, like I just mentioned, he's obviously got a lot of versatility, but this seems to be a guy who's a little bit more desperate and wondering, am I going to get signed or picked up by somebody? Because let's remember, this is a 7th round pick who ran a 4.61 in the combine. I think he was 33rd out of 38 teams in the combine whenever he ran. So like I mentioned, the speed is always an issue. It's a question there. Forever we'll be grateful for Jalen on his pass defense with Julio Jones, but I think it is time to move on. So again, let me know what you guys think. Another safety that came up on the radar, and this was kind of working through Twitter yesterday, and I saw this, but Kevin Byard of the Titans. So now that's another name, someone who's probably a lot more upper echelon, but take a look at the report here from ESPN. So Turin Davenport has this report, and he says, quote, the Tennessee Titans approached Kevin Byard about taking a pay cut, but the Pro Bowl safety does not believe his play warrants a decrease in salary, sources told ESPN Adam Schefter on Friday. Byard's plan has always been to play for one organization and ultimately retire as a Titan, but the two sides are at a crossroads according to sources. Byard signed a 5-year extension worth $70.5 million with $31 million guaranteed in 2019. The two-time first-team All-Pro has $19.6 million cap number this year. If the Titans were to release him, they would save around $6 million in cap space, but retain $13.6 million in dead cap space. End quote. The article goes on to mention, obviously, he had 108 tackles, 4 interceptions. He's a phenomenal player, and I think we all know that. Anyone who follows the NFL knows the name Kevin Byard. Now, he would be phenomenal, I think, in the team. And yes, I think he would fit well. He's very physical. He can play the run. He's also great with, obviously, he had the 4 interceptions. So he can defend really well. It's the question of the money, the financial situation, which at this point, what Howie has spent on, I don't think that you can afford a player of his magnitude. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe Howie could figure out a way to make it work. I just don't think that it would be the smartest thing, especially, too, because Byard has already had, and the reason that the Titans are getting rid of him, but they've already restructured his cap number or restructured his contract twice to make it work. So I don't think Byard is in a situation right now where he's saying, yeah, you know what, I'll give you a discount deal. As much as maybe he would want to win and join an organization who's ready to win a Super Bowl, I'm not sure that this would work, and I don't think he would want to join for the organization. Now, if you could make the money work, I'm all for it, but that always is what it comes down to. So let me know what you guys think. Is this someone that we should pursue? Should Howie pursue Kevin Byard? Should we try to make this work? Is it even possible with the money? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. As we're thinking about safety, the question then becomes, what are the other options? Let's say you don't do Jalen Mills. Let's say that you don't do Kevin Byard. Well, then what are you stuck with? Well, maybe the draft, that's a great scenario, great possibility. Who are your options there? So there's an article here on Pro Football Focus where they're ranking kind of the top safeties. So if you take a look, you've got Brian Branch of Alabama, and kind of the quick little synopsis there is Branch is a very high floor defender with a skill set that can fit into every NFL defense. And then there's number 2, Antonio Johnson of Texas A&M, big board rank of 32. Johnson's a playmaker around the line of scrimmage, more of maybe a little bit of a run stopper, but he can still play the pass. And then Sidney Brown with Illinois. Brown is the single best athlete in the safety class. His size will take him off some boards, but his coverage versatility should be coveted. And then it goes on, you got Jamie Robinson, Jordan Battle's another name from Alabama, Christopher Smith. So there's a couple different options. I think if I'm looking at it here, though, and knowing Howie, he's probably not really looking strongly at any of these names because, again, we know that Howie loves the trenches and the war is really fought in those areas in his mind. So I think he values the offensive line, the defensive line, and that's probably where he'll go. But I would love to see potentially taking a look at maybe a guy like a Sidney Brown with one of the later picks that you have. I don't think that you reach or you grab someone like a Brian Branch as much as I would love that. There's too many options that you can get. And I think that you even by signing Slay, it's signifying that yes, we want Slay here, but we really are trying to draft his next kind of up-and-comer, someone that Slay can mentor and then can take over in a year or two as the stud. Now, I think that guy would obviously play. So whether it's Christian Gonzalez, Joey Porter, Devin Witherspoon, I think that person's going to get a lot of playing time, but that is more of the route that I think you could potentially see someone go. Also, let's not forget Greedy Williams. I know that was a recent signee. There's been mentions and rumors of, hey, could he possibly move and play safety? I think he's got some versatility, so maybe even how he considers that. We'll just have to see. I will still die on the hill of CJ Gardner Johnson will be coming back. That's all I'm going to say. I feel like that's the confident part of this is that CJ Gardner Johnson will be back, but if he's not, it's always good to have a contingency plan, so I did want to take a look Curious to know you guys' thoughts, though. Is there a better option here in the draft? Should we just try to look at something else? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Lastly, wanted to bring up the full depth chart. So we're looking at the full picture of where things stand currently. And so I got this from ourlads.com, but they did a really good job of pulling up the Eagles depth chart currently. You can see kind of the highlighted names who are potential losses or still kind of in the limbo status for free agency. The needs here, if you go down a little bit further, obviously defensive line, offensive line, and safety. Those are the big three. And we know that. We've been following, obviously, very closely. You see here, safety, as we just kind of talked about and discussed, there's options there. But the D-line, as we mentioned, and then the offensive line. Isaac Seumalo, as of right now, as of the recording, we still don't know officially what's going on there. I don't think that there's a way or a world that you keep him, especially with the way that the numbers have worked out for the money for a lot of others. But I think you're in good hands with Cam Jurgens sliding over to right guard, playing next to Kelsey, and then you maybe draft someone. I say maybe. Howie's probably for sure going to do that, but draft an offensive lineman. But then you're talking about drafting a defensive lineman. So it'd be curious to see what Howie does with the 10th pick versus the 30th pick. I have said this many times on many shows, and I will also die on this hill, but Kalijah Chauncy is my number one defensive lineman. I would absolutely love if he falls to the Eagles, whether that's in a trade back position from 10 or he somehow makes it to 30. And then for the offensive line, I haven't done a whole lot of scouting. I know Skronkorski, I can't say his name, but from Northwestern, that may be a possibility, but I think for that, you'd have to take him at 10. But there may be some other. I just haven't looked into him as closely. I would love the idea of a corner, but the more that this keeps going on, I think it's likely that it's going to be a guy in the trenches, like I mentioned. So we'll just have to see. But again, you take a look at this depth chart, you got to be super happy. If you're Howie, if you're a fan, and I'm super happy, anyone looking at this, you got to be thrilled with where things are at currently. Howie's got an A+ job, like I've mentioned. Thumbs up for Howie. But it's going to be interesting to see how he closes this out with the last couple signings. Hopefully he gets a deal done very soon with CJ Gardner Johnson. We will keep you posted as soon as we have the breaking news there. Also should be doing, I think I'll be doing a show here soon with Joe Castro of the Philly podcast. So be sure to check that out. I think it'll be probably maybe Tuesday or Wednesday. Also Wednesday, every Wednesday, the live show, the Wednesday link with Thomas Mott of the Thomas Mott Show, 7 o'clock Eastern. So be looking for that this coming week. But appreciate you guys joining as always. Make sure to like and subscribe. But until next time, I'm Josh Davis, and this has been the Philly Special.